Hey y'all. We are going to move into classification, taxonomy. You were introed with the Brain Pop video yesterday, and now we're moving into that topic. So, some questions to think about as we go through this is how is the broadest taxonomic classification of living organisms divided into currently recognized domains? I know that's kind of confusing. We're going to talk about that. So let's start with the root words here. Classification, and that's the process of grouping things based on similarities. As you can see in the picture, the little girl is putting fish, mammals, insects, and birds. She's classifying them into little boxes. We classify things in your homes, just like I told you in the video yesterday. We classify things in our homes based on, how we might use them. Um, you put silverware in a certain area, you put food in a certain area, shoes in a certain area. You might organize your clothes by color, by brand, by season, etc. We classify things a bunch of different ways, but we're going to focus on how scientists classify organisms. So that leads us into the topic of taxonomy. It's a scientific study of how living things are classified. Um, I guess we're going to kind of go back when and just mention two scientists, I should say, because I guess they're classified as that. Aristotle, he's known as like the first person to actually like create a classification system. But he only had classification of plants and animals at that time. Linnaeus, he's the father of taxonomy. He developed that system that you saw in the Brain Pop, but it was more simple in his time. It's become more complex because, scientists have discovered so many other organisms out there, and there's only more to discover on Earth, and as time goes on. So, the domains and kingdoms could just keep getting bigger. So that's basically a good little background on classification. But let's go over the levels. There are 8 different levels. I told you yesterday that we're going to mainly focus on domain and kingdom. Domain is the broadest category, meaning like there's so many, there's so many different organisms in that category. Like as you move down this classification level, like kind of step ladder thing, you always start at the top and go down. The most organisms will be in this top one, and as you go down, the most specific category of like a species. So, like yesterday, that bottlenose dolphin would be here. So we're mainly going to focus on domain and kingdom. I'm going to click out of this for a second and bring up this picture. That you might want to like screenshot this if you want, save it on your desktop. But the domains that we're going to focus on are archaea, bacteria, and eukarya. I did mention to you that eukarya is like us in plants, things that have nucleuses in their cells, a lot of multicellular organisms. Click out of that and go back into the slideshow. So just going back to that, that hierarchy, that classification system, domain and kingdom are what we're going to focus on. But then we go to phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. Tomorrow you might have an assignment to come up with like your own little mnemonic device on how to remember those, just for something fun to do. So we'll see. But as you can see, the same picture kind of like, you could even screenshot this if you wanted to kind of have a little notes for you. But and this is a good example too. If you want to screenshot this, go ahead. But this is basically this into an example. So we're going to look at the classification of dog from domain to species. So if you notice in the domain eukarya, you have all these different things. Then you go to the kingdom. The kingdom that the dog is in is the animal kingdom. And it's with fish, snakes, people, like a bunch of different things. Then you go to the phylum, which is Chordata, animals with a backbone. This should be similar. You should kind of remember this from the brain pop, similar, yet from yesterday. So all these animals with backbones are left. The class would be Mammalia. You have only mammals left. The order Carnivore, you only have the carnivores left. Family, Canidae, I think that's how you pronounce it. So you're only going to have these ones left. The genus is Canis. The species is Canis lupus. And then you have the species of the dog here, domesticated dog. So you probably even seen, there's like a commercial that I think it's like a blue something dog food, because it's relating dogs to wolves, because in like foxes and stuff, because they're very similar to them, and how they eat and whatever. So it's kind of neat just to kind of think about that that's related to a TV commercial in a way. But anyways, skip through that. So today we're going to mainly just focus on the topic of domain. We will build into the topic of kingdom and go through all the kingdoms, but we're going to just talk about the 3 different domains. One of them is easy because that's the one we're in, but we're going to start with the other ones. So, and you can always screenshot any notes that you see that you want to hang on to on your desktop, or make like a little folder on last unit, 6th grade science or something. But domain archaea. So in this domain, archaea, you're going to have unicellular organisms that are super simple, only made of one cell. They're going to be prokaryotic organisms, so they don't have nucleus in that cell. They're going to be found in really weird environments. So like salty water, which would harm us, volcanic hot springs. So really weird things that can grow in like volcanic type places. When we do talk about kingdoms, the kingdom that falls under the domain would be the Archaebacteria. This stands for like ancient bacteria. And we will go over this kingdom, but all the kingdom that falls under, like branches under it, is the Archaebacteria. Okay, so the second domain, you can hear my kids trying to get into the room I'm in, so I apologize for that. But the next domain is the domain bacteria. The first one I think is the hardest one, but if you kind of just remember that archaea is like that arc, like ancient arc, like A and A. So it's just like really weird environments, ancient, found in crazy places. The second domain is the domain bacteria. It's going to be found everywhere. Like there's bacteria everywhere. That's why we shower and wash our hands and stuff. I mean, in today's day and age, you guys know this because the whole virus thing that's going around. But they're going to be prokaryotic again. They're going to not have any nucleus in their cell. Most known and most studied bacteria, like you're just going to have a lot of bacteria that cause different types of viruses like strep throat, flu, etc. So the kingdom that will fall under the domain bacteria is the Eubacteria. Don't confuse this and think that this one goes in the next domain down here, Eukarya. Nope. It's Eubacteria. So anytime you see like the root word Eubacteria, it's going to be under bacteria. But Archaebacteria, ancient, goes into the archaea domain. So these are the 3 big domains. So 1, 2, and then 3. Domain Eukarya. This one is found everywhere because it includes insects, us, lots of stuff. It's most of the world's living things, pretty much. They're gonna be eukaryotic organisms. So it's gonna be organisms that have a nucleus in their cells. Example are like humans and animals and plants. So some of the kingdoms, because there are going to be 6 kingdoms that we start to learn about. So the other two domains only had one kingdom each that fell under them. This domain has four kingdoms. So it's going to be Protista and fungi. We'll talk about those later on. And then Animalian plants. You should know these ones because Animalia would be us and other animals, and plants would be, plants. So Eukarya is going to be the easiest one that you guys should remember. So in today's lesson, I want you to know the three different domains, what classification, what taxonomy means, and start to think about the kingdoms that fall under each domain. Because when we start talking about the next piece, you're going to want to know that. So, guys, make sure that you are checking my agenda every day. You should have already pulled it up, kind of look at the to-do list, see that you had to watch this video, and then what you're going to do is look at the to-do and complete the next portion there. It's going to be an easier assignment again tomorrow, and then we'll kind of build from there on Wednesday and Thursday and moving into next week, okay? If you need anything, remember to join my Hangouts at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. But other than that, go and complete the next portion of today's assignment.